Welcome to the Reality Therapy Podcast. Here's our crew to talk about the response to the recent tragedy. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Holy smokes. That was quick. I will go first because I have so much to say, if that's okay. I am livid. Um, I have a lot of built up anger inside of me that needs to be kind of released. My anger yesterday was a lot of tears, a lot of crying, a lot of pain. Today I woke up with energy. It's just been converted, and I'm very angry. I'm mainly, I think if I can pinpoint it, I'm mainly angry at the therapists that are just saying the most disgusting and despicable things across platforms towards specifically, obviously, conservatives. Um, this is an attack that's been ongoing since 2016 towards us conservatives when Trump came into office. And I'm just tired. I'm tired of the rhetoric. I'm tired of constantly being attacked. And then to see someone like Charlie, Ryan and I were talking about a little earlier, who did nothing but truly promote free speech, literally gave them a platform, told them to speak, never told them to shut up, always encouraged them to come to the mic, to say the things that they're saying about this human being. It's despicable, and I'm tired of it. And boy, do I have a fire inside of me to really go after people individually. I usually am respectable. I usually try not to engage with one-on-one talk on social media, but now I'm just finding myself looking for them and
Yeah.
wanting to attack them individually because
I-
this is ridiculous.
I'm very sorry to interrupt, but it's to your interest. Ryan, Jake is attempting to get on. He's in the chat. I know you may not have noticed.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Mhm.
Mm, okay. Where are you, Jake?
Well, you bring up some powerful points. I think what we've seen in the last, well, nearly 10 years now, since 2016, is this escalation of our industry, the broader allied field of quote unquote healthcare, be weaponized. And I think that's no secret to anyone in this, in this room. It's no secret, hopefully, to anyone in the listening audience. But interesting to see in this particular case, someone assassinated in front of 3,000, college students right there in front. I mean, arguably the most visible. I can't imagine that there's a better example, a better, worse example of we were right there. I mean, we think of today on 9/11, we think of 9/11. I can remember where I was. I can remember coming out of the classroom. TVs were being rolled into the university campus. I can remember, this. I saw something across social media, and then, I was watching this whole thing unfold live and effectively live. And to see therapists in that space of, or healthcare professionals, I'll stick with that broader, um,
Mm.
uh, healthcare professionals on their own social, recording themselves, calling this out by name, Charlie Kirk assassinated, and laughing about it, with their credentials right there in front of them. They weren't hiding this. That it's just baffling to think we're at this spot. 2020 was similar, where we actively saw people. We saw people actively say, "Well, if you didn't do this, then you deserve to die." This is just as and then some. And this is
Yeah.
the assassination of a guy, just as you said, who called for free speech, caring for your family, and was willing to sit at that table. I mean, could you? I can't imagine sitting at that table and keeping my cool year after year.
Um, yeah, I think I have the same sentiments of you guys. I found out about it in a session. That was a unique experience, but what had surprised me the most was when I got home, my kids had already known about it because it had reached Snapchat. So I have a 13-year-old and I have an 8-year-old, and they knew who Charlie Kirk who he was, and I was a little surprised. And my son's friends came over. They all know who Charlie Kirk was, which was interesting. We were able to have a conversation because a couple of them, claimed to disagree with Charlie Kirk, but I was already like 12 and 13-year-olds know about this political landscape in a way that I wasn't quite aware of. And so, my kids are now introduced to this topic of political violence around what you want to talk and what you can say. And I had to tell my son today, if there was a teacher, New York State went cell phone free. So we are one of the first states that doesn't have cell phones anymore. So I did have to say, if you heard anything at school, you need to go immediately and call me and I'll take you out. They didn't say anything, but my daughter was talking about a dead mom a lot last night. And today I had clients who what I kind of do in my, I don't know what you call it, speaker life, I don't always bring up with my clientele, but I've had clients crying to me today, begging me to not speak ever again in order then that they want to save, me from dying. So that's been a very surprising thing. And, I think 4 of my clients brought up Civil War, that this must be the start of Civil War. So,
Wow. Yeah.
and so, yeah, I want to call SU and go speak out again, like right now, but on the same token, I think speaking out is going to have to be different now, how we do that.
Right.
Well, I found myself in session, 20 minutes after, um, 20 minutes after confirming that that Charlie Kirk had passed, that he had been assassinated. And it just to try to get yourself into the headspace to get back into session. I was wondering if this client, was aware. Knowing this particular client, I knew that they were a fan of Charlie Kirk, and so I was wondering what this conversation was going to be like. How was I going to be in session as well? I mean, I had to do a good gut check. Am I capable of holding this next session and being objective and giving good counsel? And arguably, for me, that was a tough call. I was very much, still am, feeling it. I was texting my daughters just a few minutes before, from the same studio right here where I was providing that session, saying, like, if you haven't seen the videos yet, you don't need to look. You don't need to see this.
I mean, it's very much like what we saw when Trump won, I guess, all 3 times. But
Mhm.
technically the last 2 times will be politically correct. It's a lot like the leftists who said, "I need a day off, because this evil human being just became our president. I need some time. I can't handle seeing my Trump supporter clients," not that many of them had them, um, and they just needed to take a time out. And that's where we are. We're just like, okay, well, we get it. We also sometimes need a timeout. We probably can't be fully present for some clients. I know I had a lot of people in the conservative group that I run say that they just couldn't. Um, and some even said, which I understand, although I don't want this for them, that some even said, I cannot right now sit across from my clients who hate Trump,
Yeah.
who they know will probably rejoice in some way with Charlie Kirk passing the way he did. And I can't do that. I can't be present. And I get it. I understand that pain 100%. But at the same time, we got mad at them for saying those things to us.
Mhm.
We got mad at them for saying, "What do you mean you're not going to be there for your Republican client? What do you mean you're just going to let them sit there and not have you present with them?" So I'm careful about supporting something like that because I think us therapists are in always a very unique position where we have our professional life and then we have our personal life. And in our professional life, unfortunately, we have to put all of those feelings aside. That is our call. That is our call. And then if we go into our personal life, do what you want. I don't care. But we can't bring that personal into the professional world. And I have to be very careful in how I approach that with my conservative therapist, because I don't want to encourage them to be like the leftists are. I don't want
Okay.
them to feel like they can just abandon their leftist clients. That's
Okay.
not, I don't think, the right thing to do professionally. And if I feel if we're at a place where we're kind of questioning who can actually sit before us, then maybe we need to question whether or not this is the profession for us. Because if it's
Okay.
not, if you can't be there for every individual that's in your office, not the right profession for you. I get it. I understand it. I just don't think it's the right profession.
So,
May
oh, go ahead, Josh.
Ed, I would like to offer a reaction, but I can wait my turn if you'd prefer to go first.
No, go for it. Ah, there's Jake. No, go ahead, Josh.
Okay. As well, just to make sure everybody does know, I'm not a degreed mental health professional. I am not a licensed professional like the rest of you. That is by choice. Um, but I do what I do is in fact therapy adjacent. I do coaching and consulting. You'd call it counseling if that weren't a licensed term. I have a little bit of a different take on this. Um, I won't make any pronouncements about what a therapist ought or ought not do in terms of being able to be there and in the session. You got to do this for yourself. But I got to say no to a little bit of that. This is not morally equivalent. This is not a mirror image. I'm sorry, but I must object. It is not the same thing. When people are, and I'm not saying that leftists don't need help. I'm not saying that I would turn away a leftist. I wouldn't. But there is an objective, real world. This is not feelings, real world difference between people who are neurotically caught up in a fantasy that Donald Trump is a murderer or is a rapist or is going to destroy the Constitution. I understand that they feel that way, and I too would work with such a person, yes. But that is not a mirror image of where we are right now. We're not in the same place. These are people, we're talking about people right now who are expressing pleasure, sadistic pleasure, in a murder. It is not a mirror image that, if I had, for example, if I had a client come to me, I'm not exactly sure what I would do. I think I probably would sit the session through and try to reach them. But I absolutely would not feel a moral obligation to pretend to that client that that I had unconditional positive regard for them in that moment. I'm sorry, I would not. There is a very big moral difference between being really upset about somebody politically, even if your views aren't accurate, and saying, "Oh, it's great that, I'm glad he died." Maybe that's not what's being talked about here, but one of the things that's made me very, very antsy and frankly I'm quite angry today, are these moral equivalences that I'm seeing out in the bigger world. I think we are at an inflection point. I hate that I just said that cliched phrase. In society, we don't have time for bullshit anymore. There's no more moral relativism and equivocation. There's right and there's wrong. There's murder and there's allowing people to live. Thank you for listening. I'll be quiet now.
I
Thank you,
appreciate
Josh.
that.
I want to piggyback on both Soad and Josh. And, I think I love what Soad is saying is our duty is to our clients no matter what. Like, I love that. And that we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. I completely agree with that. I think there's a difference between, Donald Trump was elected president, and in my mind, that's the equivalent of genocide, and I'm having a meltdown. I can't see any conservative client. I think I remember Sarah Stockton talking about seeing therapists cancel on their Trump supporting clients 2 minutes before a session just to stick it to them. I think there's a little bit of a difference between that and I was at a prayer vigil at my church at 7 a.m. this morning, and there's a lot of tissues being used, a lot of tears. My pastors were crying. This is like a period of mourning, and if somebody is celebrating and wanting to dance on his grave, I can understand saying, you know what, I don't feel like therapy today. Does that resonate?
So if I have leftist clients, and I do at times have to listen to a lot of hate towards someone like me. And both of you are right. There is no comparison morally with what happened with Charlie Kirk. And Trump becoming president. No comparison whatsoever. But going into that therapy room with a client who I've had and says things like, I'm not remorseful. I'm actually quite happy. I'm excited about it. Sure, I have an immediate reaction to it. Of course, I'm going to sit there and want to spew some hate right back. But there is a professional obligation that I have. And I'm not saying I have to say things like, I get it, I understand.
No.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I have to still hold that. Oh God, here I go with the cliches. I have to hold space for that individual in the room. However, I do it where I still feel comfortable. But I have to. Like, that is my professional hat. If that's something I can't do, and I get that people can't do this. I have such, oh my gosh, I totally get that people can't do this, and not a lot of people can do this job. Don't do this job then. Because there is this unique gift that we have, I personally think, as therapists, as shrinks, as counselors, as biblical counselors. They have a little more leeway than we do. But we just have to be able to listen to that disgustingness, because that's what it is, and then be able to work with them and hope that through our challenge and through the change and through truth and how we use therapy, through CBT, through philosophy, that we can get them to then look at it differently and say, wait a minute, I never thought of it that way. And then that's when change can happen. I look at a leftist in the room as an opportunity to be like, can we look at something else? Can we and play the devil's advocate with them? I do the same with my right. I do the exact same. I play the perfect progressive liberal for them in the therapy room as well. But again, it's to get them to actually stand firm on what they say they believe. If you believe Trump is Hitler and Charlie Kirk was his spawn, you gotta be able to defend that. And I'm going to challenge you to it. I'm going to make sure you can defend that. So it's an approach I feel like we have to take as that, and it's not a joke being what we are. It's not. We have to take it seriously. And I think that's the problem of the left. They don't take this seriously. To them, it's just fun social warfare. Like, oh, this is just advocacy. They don't understand this is against good and evil. They don't get that.
And
A
I
lot
think
of
it's
our backup,
dehumanization, right? Like, I think
yes,
it's very easy for me to talk to a client if they had that way about them of, if you dehumanize someone else, you can't not dehumanize yourself. And so
amen.
what is going on that we are so scared of people? I mean, whether you thought he's a terrorist or, I was thinking, like, Dr. Palmer said it was like, today's September 11th. And I was trying to think of it, honestly, have I ever been excited that someone passed away, or, think about the person I can't stand and what would I feel? And I only could come back to bin Laden. So I remember when I found out bin Laden was killed, and I still wasn't like, ooh, murder happened. Like, I wasn't like, oh, it was, oh, this stuff is going to stop. And so what's unique, and what I did talk to a client about today, was like, in that circumstance, all right, it meant the stopping of a terrorist organization. Do you think something was stopped here? Like, was this an attempt to stop something? And if it was it, and I mean, it was an attempt to shut them up. Like, yes, that happened. And so do we want people to stop talking, or do we want them to stop living? Do we want them to? And so I think a lot of clients don't understand that they're a part of the anger that is being transferred to each other.
Right.
So I wanted to kind of start broad, like society level broad, and then kind of work our way back to the therapy profession, kind of where we started a little bit. But, we have kind of this, it's been adopted into society, this postmodern, post-structuralist view that language creates reality, and the wrong language is actually a literal form of violence. And so if Donald Trump says, XYZ, he's literally causing mass violence. And if you say that over and over and over again, you shouldn't be surprised if someone tries to assassinate Donald Trump. And I think the same thing happened with Charlie Kirk. We say conservative ideas are literally violence. He's
Mhm.
inflicting mass harm and violence on marginalized bodies, right? We say that over and over. You shouldn't be surprised if someone actually takes you seriously.
Mm.
No, he had Nazi stuff on his gun, and if you actually think you're killing Nazis, I mean, this person thinks he has a higher calling. Obviously, this is
Yeah.
something.
Not just Nazi, also pro-trans. Trans. We
Mhm.
can talk about that too,
Yep.
maybe.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, how many things do we see across the news that hate begets hate, and that became like, well, and it looks like he got what he was, what he deserved in this. I mean, my media feed was either tears and people reflecting upon Charlie Kirk's tremendous life, or polar opposite. It was this guy, he posted something about the 2A, you
Yep.
know, I don't know, 4 days ago, 5 days ago, and therefore, in fact, I heard it in the office this morning in the studio. I won't mention where. I heard it in my office that I consult for this morning in the hallway. Two guys talking about, well, how'd that Second Amendment go for him? Like right there in public space, and I found that baffling. Um,
Baffling?
Absolutely.
Or
I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I mean, evil would be one. At the same time, I'm not surprised. Like of course. So I suppose the baffling part is that a person really would be that brazen about it, outside of social media.
if I could, um, today's taking a lot of self-control. This is one of those days where my neuroses could get the better of me very, very quickly.
I'm
So,
sitting here thinking I like this guy a lot already. So
um,
keep going. Yeah.
Josh, let loose. You're
Yeah.
unleashed, please.
the okay, I too, obviously, I'm emotionally affected by this. Um, but there are some things that are jumping out to me that I haven't heard as much discussion about. I don't know how many other people share them. But what has really exercised, first of all, I was neither surprised nor was I shocked to hear this. I have expected, I didn't have Charlie Kirk's name in my head, but this was going to happen, and it may happen again. It's likely to happen again. This was always going to happen. And not present company accepted. Mr. Palmer, I'm not going directly at you. I'm not going directly at anyone here. But there's a lot of people out there who are feeling this way. I'm sorry, but the time to be surprised and shocked and baffled was 10 years ago.
Mhm.
There's no real bafflement. There's no real, I can't believe this happened. The only way that one cannot believe these things are happening is by consistently lying to oneself and being in active denial. And I say this as somebody who spent most of his adult life in active denial. I was a lefty who was this person. So I am guilty. I share this sin. I believe I've overcome this particular sin. So I do feel that I am allowed to say it this way. But there is no bafflement. There is no, this is what always had to happen and what has frustrated the ever-loving shit out of me for years now. It's been almost 5 years that I've been talking about cluster B, psychopathy, family abuse, borderline manipulation techniques, the explosion of what we used to call domestic abuse into the public stage.
Mhm.
This is that. This is cluster B. It's psychopathy. It's authoritarianism. It's cults. It's satanic. It's all these things. We can use all of these labels and they're all accurate. And I've seen a lot of this today. And forgive me, I'm pleased to see it, not because I like to see people shocked and hurt, but because I like to see people take the medicine that I know is going to keep them healthy, even if it hurts today. I'm seeing a lot of people who are very upset today because they are seeing who their family and their friends really are for the very first time in their lives. And I've been through that too. I had family and friends who I know I know would see me dead because of this, just the way they'd see Donald Trump dead, just the way they'd see Charlie Kirk dead. It was the worst thing in my entire life, having to face and accept that that was reality, but I did. And I think that people need to understand that. That won't be everybody. It's not everyone on the left. But there are millions of people out here that we are all pretending, because they're part of our families or we go to work with them, we're pretending that they're normal people and that they're sane people and they're good people, and they're not. They're dangerous.
Agreed.
How
I
do we go forward, right? I mean, I think I really want to say I don't know how clear my emotions are either. I didn't sleep very well as I had met Charlie recently at an event. And, losing my job at SU, it very easily could have been me in the same situation. And my daughter is talking to me about not wanting the house when I die. And my brother LOL'd me, which is fine. Like, in terms of my brother, that was the nicest he could go. My dad cried for the first time. My dad's not even watched What is a Woman, so that was very surprising to me. So I think, to quote Charlie, this is a turning point, right? Like, and I want to work with everyone. I've always worked with anyone. I don't want to even belong to these parties. They don't deserve me. But we're getting to a point where I don't know how much longer we are going to be able to sit across from each other, because if someone is happy about death, that is like psychotic. Like, we do have to be able to address this thing, and that is the norm. So I am concerned around, how we're going to continue to do this and feel safe and feel, I know parts of people that I love close would think I would deserve to be shot too for saying these things.
I got to jump in and talk about what Josh you brought up about 10 years ago, and it's so Scott Adams did his coffee talk today and this morning, and he was talking about, and I resonated with this deeply, how basically we have to completely dismantle the Democratic Party and just gut it out and clean it up and really rebuild in some way if it's at all possible. And all of this really started when Trump ran the first term, and why they were scared, they were whatever, all the reasons that they have. And what they did from the top is all of a sudden talk about morality, values, and ethics from the top in the White House. How anybody who didn't vote for Hillary, there's something morally wrong with you. There's something corrupt about the character that you have because you voted for Trump. Those are mainly the areas that we work in therapy. So of course, therapists are hearing from our presidents, from our White House, from the Congress, that anybody that's on the right half of this country, because he won, who did vote for this human being is just morally corrupt. And now it's our place to help them. Now we got to socially advocate for a more moral and more value-based people in society. It's our place to help realign these people. And that is where it started, where we had this shift in our political system that no longer is about right or left. It's that you're horrible and evil and bad, and you've got to be like us on the left. You've got to be progressive and open-minded and tolerant, ironically. So that the shift really did happen. How do we clean that up? I really don't know. I really have no clue how to go forward in that, because it really has to come from that as well. We're doing a lot of the work, but it needs to come from the top. What we can only do is stand on truth.
Yes.
What is truth? Objective reality. That is the truth. And the left in our field is trying to corrupt that and say that there's only subjective reality now. And we got to constantly fight against that. But we do need to dismantle it from the top. The White House has to shift. Something has to happen. Republicans need to get some fucking balls and do something about this, because it is time to fucking go to war. No more Mr. Nice Guys in the Republican Party anymore. I'm sick of it to the nth degree. Sorry I'm angry, but that's just where I'm at. Like, I am tired of seeing them keep saying, we're the bigger people, we're okay, we love God, we're about Jesus. Well, Jesus fucking flipped some tables. So we really got to get in there and flip some goddamn tables, because I am sick of sitting on the sidelines. It's tiring, it's exhausting, and people are obviously getting killed. Enough.
So I want
Your
to
words right into my vein, right into this IV port right here.
I want to get Jake Freeman in here. We haven't heard from him yet.
Yeah, sorry. The communists are taking over my phone. This is not the first time America has faced down this enemy, this Marxism. There's an enormous body of research, assuming everybody can hear me all right.
Yes.
Yes.
Godspeed, Starlink. There's an enormous body of work coming out of the 1950s and 1960s when American prisoners of war were captured by the communist Chinese. Edward Schein, Dr. Litvin, these were psychologists brought in to try to repatriate what we now call brainwashed American prisoners of war, all the way up to the level of colonels, like full-bird colonels. And the Chinese had called it ideological thought reform. Our best translation we could bring from the Chinese over to the English was brainwashing. And there's an enormous body of work that none of us read because that enemy it rose up. McCarthy was not totally incorrect.
No, he was not.
And but because he was kind of a good guy, he got, well, Charlie Kirk, he got destroyed, right? When you face up against these, and this is why I appreciate Mr. Slocum so much, when you present a defense against these individuals, this almost cluster B ideology, they look at you like a hammer that bit your hand. When you're trying to hammer a board, why do you get a choice, hammer, in biting my hand? They look at you like a thing. It is Buffalo Bill looking down at the bottom of the well at us. It puts the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again. There's ideological thought reform and the psychology of totalism is an incredible and dense read. And in fact, on my Twitter, I'm going to list my fan favorites. When you're reading this shit, that was written in the 60s, updated in the 80s, and a couple old man academic, here's my, third edition in the 90s before I die. It is today. It is absolutely today, watching how the Chinese communists brainwashed an entire population with 5,000 years of history so that children were turning against their parents. Children were turning against their siblings. It was, in fact, the children that were carrying out the executions against their own family members. And without seeing it firsthand, you think to yourself, how in the everlasting flying fuck is this possible? But then you see these people do it. One of my brothers, when I got back from my second combat deployment, I reached out to him and he said, I don't want to have anything to do with you because as a Marine Corps veteran and a married Christian male, you are the worst of all possible people. Jesus. Last thing I ever heard from him, because I know exactly who he is now, as my parents are spinning in their graves. But you have to understand, and this is why, again, Mr. Slocum is so valuable to us. This ideology has something so closely aligned with cluster B personality disorders, the antisocial personality, the psychosis, the rage at being pushed back against. You have to understand what time it is. You have to understand that these people see you, that you need to be putting the lotion on the skin or else you get the hose again. You can't be naive anymore. None of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's worth fleshing out a little bit because, you talked about like this kind of Maoist thought reform that leads to kind of a cluster B manifestation. And I think from their perspective, if we were to kind of steel man this argument, one of the things that I've heard quite a bit in the last 24 hours or so is, Sarah, I think you brought up Osama bin Laden. Like, I don't think any of us shed any tears for Osama bin Laden, right?
Right.
He was evil, and I think we would say like he needed to go. And I think from the leftist perspective, they felt very similarly about Charlie Kirk. I've heard things like he didn't call out the genocide in Gaza, therefore like he's like this moral evil, or he didn't support universal health care, or he was against gun control, therefore he deserved to die at the barrel of a gun. Like these are the type of like moral arguments being made. Like how do you I guess dismantle this argument?
I also want to point out Charlie's mom's a mental health counselor.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're right. She is.
I don't I how I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can. I don't know if an outside force or an outside person can dismantle. In fact, I'm pretty sure that none of us can from the outside. I I think that
Nor do they want to.
it has to. I mean, everything I'm going to say is going to sound so pat, and I know everyone here knows it, but nevertheless, I think our conversation acts, and I'm talking very broadly, all of us, not just everybody here, but our conversation acts as if we don't know these things. We do know them, but we kind of act as if we don't know them. So I think we have to say them again. And the only thing that ever makes an addict wake up one day and say, I want to get clean, the only thing that makes an alcoholic take the first step on the road to sobriety, the only thing that is a rock bottom, come to Jesus personal crisis, whether it's literally coming to Jesus or not literally coming to Jesus. But the change can only happen. We can only change ourselves. And we hope, and that's what all of you do to some degree or another. You are one of those rocks or resources that people can turn to and say, I'm ready to make a change. May I lean on your arm? Can I ask your expertise? Will you be my guide while I do this? That's what you're here for. And thank God you are. But it has to come from them. The motivation has to come from them. I don't think any of us have the power to even instill the motivation or the desire in other people. And so that's what ends up leaving me, frankly, scared. Genuinely scared for our country, scared for my personal safety, because I think we have to wait for people to be motivated to do it. And I know that I can't bring that motivation. So I have to wonder how many times do I have to put up my shield until they're ready?
Agreed, Josh. You're absolutely. I mean, working with personality disorders, we know that. We know that unless they come in and say, I don't like what I do, I don't like how I think, unless they do that, we cannot. Even the word possible personality diagnosis makes them hate you if they're not ready. Even if I possibly bring up the fact like, hey, you kind of meet the criteria, if I even go there with them, they're calling the board to get my license taken away. Like they just do not want to approach that until they are ready. And that's hard because most of them have no desire whatsoever for change. They love this world they have created for themselves. It protects them. It keeps them safe. That's what they like. They feel some kind of power and control. They love manipulation. They have a taste for it. They're constantly looking to con you and fool you. It's an addiction that they thrive off of. And we can't help that. It's just like an addict. An addict has to admit they're an addict and want to change. We can't force sobriety on them whatsoever.
And our therapists are I was going to say nuts, but I'll be more gentle.
No, they're nuts.
I mean, I don't know what the percentage is of breakdown, but not only are we up against a big battle, most of our therapists are.
I know the percentage exactly. It's 94% identify as left. That's only 6% of us that identify as conservatives.
So again, they couldn't handle Trump being elected. What are they doing with? What are they telling their clients about this? This is they're probably saying
Absolutely.
it's okay.
Yeah. Josh, you were
So
going to say something.
So Ed, would you say I love where you were going here. So you're talking about, which of course is not surprising, that if you even tentatively skirt around the edges of, and I'm going to guess probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to guess if you were to make such a diagnosis of personality pathology, that the majority of them would probably be borderline. Would that be right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
1,000%.
Okay. So you have to skirt around the hedgerow and not quite go through there. I get that. Have you had the experience, two-parter. One, have you had the experience of somebody who you believe did have borderline, who then demonstrated to you that he or she was ready to hear that?
No.
I
No.
have.
Okay. Okay, you have, Sarah. Okay,
Yeah.
then let me, okay. So Ed, sit over here. We're going to talk to Sarah now. Bye, honey.
See ya,
so-
Felicia. I'll be over here.
So, and this is my guess, and correct me where I go astray, please. Okay, so if I were in that position, if I were in the therapeutic position, and I had somebody there who I thought probably really did have borderline personality or was close enough for a diagnosis, but who then genuinely demonstrated in some way that he or she was able to tolerate going another step down that road and saying, maybe the problem is me, I think I would see that person as already internally having made the first step out of a personality disorder. How does that strike you?
If you think
Yes or
yeah,
no?
if someone, I wouldn't
This is
use
first draft.
right. I wouldn't articulate saying out of personality disorder as much as taking accountability for. So the only way I could ever get close to it is when someone can say and take accountability that it's causing me to lose friends, and I care perhaps around not losing friends. And sadly, right now it's cool to be borderline. So like if I just tell my friends I'm borderline, they're going to understand. So there's this cool factor that's a little different. So if I tell them they're borderline, we might work on it. So it's still a weird identity connection, but that's the only way I've had people willing to look at that.
And in what world is finding yourself borderline a normal, cool thing? I mean,
Oh yeah.
in what
Bro,
crazy...
in what world is any
In borderline world.
diagnosis of being cool? I have my teenage kids sitting there going, so what do I have?
Yeah.
You don't have anything. You're just being anxious. Chill. Like, stop. But they want this, like, give me a ICD code so I can go tell my friends what I have.
These
It's
are my
unreal.
BPD tendencies. That's what they tell me. Just my
The young person term is being a quirk chungus. A lot of them are just quirk chunguses. They're
What's
quirky. Josh is giving me a look like, what the hell did you just say, man?
No, I'm just trying to. I haven't heard it
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
They're quirky and they're slightly unfit. You know that like weird, like overfilled bratwurst looking body form. A lot of them have. Yeah, that's the chungus piece, and the quirk is the lack of social skills. So they actually call themselves quirk chunguses,
Okay.
kind of as an identifier.
What?
And
That's they call themselves weird. It has to be this funky little name, but okay.
and so being a fully functional like human being, shoulders back, chin towards God, they don't really identify that that's a good thing. It's the good thing to be the quirk chungus, and the newest quirk chungus is BPD. It used to be autism. Oh, I got the tism. And so no, I am hip with the young crowd, as you can tell. And so I've actually had some success being like, look, where do you want to be in 10 years, fucker? Like, and we map it out 2025 to 2035. Like, what do we want to accomplish? Okay, are these skill sets that you've developed, the quirk chungus thing, is that going to get you there? It's gotten you here. Is it going to get you there? And we war game what like successful behavior looks like. And wouldn't you know it, it ends up looking very conservative libertarian, right?
Right.
And they're like, oh shit, okay. And then they start teaching their friends. So I've been successful in that way.
Nice. Nice.
So I think it'd be helpful to transition more towards the mental health therapy space at this point. I've just so much of the disgusting things I've seen online have been by licensed mental health professionals. And I know in some of our group chats, we're posting screenshots of this stuff. I'm looking at this guy, Therapy Jeff, who I think is a popular social media therapist, who said it's okay to not feel any compassion to Charlie Kirk. There's this one therapist, the quote is, do some self-reflection and interrogation of why you speak up for a white man. You know, it's just like that. That's what comes up when this guy's horrifically shot. What is going on in therapy where you have so many of these type of, I mean, like, Carl Rogers would say unconditional positive regard is like your kind of your one must have. Like empathy is the central thing in our profession, and the people who shout empathy the most seem not to have very much of it.
Well, and interesting, that's also the first comment is they're saying, well, Charlie Kirk said something negative about empathy, although he was saying sympathy is actually a very positive thing. And so they're like, well, so therefore I'm absolved of any empathy. But it's a deeper question. But that's the immediate response to a T.
Well, is not the primary question here if we're going to talk about what's wrong with the mental health industry. One of my primary questions, this is, and answering this question only gets us one step down the road, but I think it's a question that needs answering and closer to the beginning. What percentage of licensed therapists are cluster B themselves?
Exactly.
What percentage of these people?
94%.
Because I'll tell you, I hold this tentatively. I don't have data. Nobody has data because you're not allowed to get this data. If I tried to get this data, every roadblock would stop me. The
100%.
study would not be approved. No one will be allowed to actually empirically examine this. So it's not going to happen. All we have are our best guesses.
Yep.
But if you were to ask me to look out at all of it, licensed clinical social workers, counselors, maybe I'll leave PhD psychologists to the side. I think there's less of it. I do think cluster B is probably overrepresented in them too, but probably not to the broad degree when we capture everybody else here. My guess, at least 50% of them are either fully borderline or they have such a high dose of traits that they are functionally borderline for the purposes of this. I have no idea what you all, if you had to guess, what would you all say?
94%.
You would go that high.
Seriously, absolutely. They are not
Interesting.
well. They are not well. Us therapists are not okay. Someone save us. God forbid I'm saying this, even within my conservative group, I can sometimes look and go, we got a little cluster B going on over here. So even within conservatives, it has really nothing to do with left and right. It just has to do with why I chose this profession. What is it about me that needed this profession? How can I get away with continuing this behavior that I have? What's the best profession for me? A lot of therapists.
Do you think Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I've heard therapists throw around when other therapists, kind of vent their own issues. They'll say, "Physician, heal thyself," which is what one of the demonic individuals at the foot of the cross said to Christ. Not a good thing to say, right? As Soad says, it is really alarming how many people become therapists to fix themselves. Because they have absolute deep-seated issues that we don't require actual psychometric testing to become one of us. It's like becoming a physician because you are a serial killer, and it just gives you that when you're able to cut people. It's fucking funky as shit. I got into this because say again.
It reminds me of that show Dexter. He became what he did because he loved the draw of blood, and he loved to, it's
the code. The code. No, I got into this originally because when I tried to get help from PTSD post-Afghanistan, the PhD shrink I went to told me straight out, looking me into the face, that have you ever considered that maybe you're transgender? Because you don't feel like you fit in anymore. You don't understand, your people around you don't understand you. You feel uneasy. And he was like, have you ever considered you're transgender? I'm like, no, but I can smell fucking blown up Afghans in my nose and it makes me dry heave, dog. So that's kind of how I went down this road to realize there is no one is coming to save my people. So I was like, well, shit, GI Bill, let's go. So here I am. So Ryan, you had asked a question, the prompt question before. I didn't quite get a chance. The dehumanization. Like, why is this happening? You have to understand that when the Chinese caught American POWs out of Korea, they worked with the Soviets on how do you take these capitalist imperialist pig dogs and redraw their brains. The Soviets and the communist Chinese worked together to create a world-class industrialized scale brainwashing mechanism. That mechanism has been injected into particularly American academia, but anywhere where there's Chinese government money getting poured in, it's a part of it. You have to learn about it, educate yourself on it, and recognize it. The question, how many therapists are cluster B? How many local housewives running the local Facebook market page are cluster B?
Ooh, all of them.
All of them, because
it's
they're
actually,
affected.
Crazy
I'm
group.
sorry to be
East
that guy, but it's actually more than all of them. It's 106%. Just so you know.
Well, correct. And why? Why? It's because confidence is quiet. People that are healthy, us, as you can tell, all very healthy, we don't have to get out there to make the demonic voices go away. That you especially, Swad. We don't have to get out there to make it go away. But when you have awfulness permeating out of your soul constantly, you have to do something to deal with it. Which is, hell, in my clinic, I see several like true to form actual psychopaths. And they have done really well because I've talked them through. We've talked about there is a purpose for you in humanity. You exist bioevolutionarily for a reason, socioevolutionary for a reason. You exist for a reason. You're probably been misapplied up to this point. And so they stop hurting the people around them and focus their very high skill set in doing what they do. How do I put this? On people who are not their tribe. Probably not the best way to do it, but my God, it stabilizes their local family life. So you get these people that are like a ungrounded electrical high voltage current in the therapy community, just blowing up the world around them. You have to recognize what it is and why it is. Anyway.
You know, therapists are not the most humble people on this planet. They have got the biggest freaking egos ever. Present party excluded, of course. So they have this God complex in them that they just love knowing that I could change this person's life. I can dictate what happens to this person. I can diagnose them with something that they'll have forever. I'm going to be their savior. Like they just have this in their head. And that is very much personality disorder right there. That is grandiose. I am God. That's how they love to play the game. They just this profession for them was a godsend. It was a way for them to be able to step into a position and be able to say, I have so much control without effort. This person is paying me to be in control over them. That is a lot of the attitude that we have in therapists today. It's sickening. There's no way to be able to weed this out. I don't know if there is an answer or a way to be able to weed this out, but that's what I think therapists are, most of them, at least.
Would each of you be willing to just tell me like what the letters are after your name, what your terminal degree is, what you call yourself, counselor, therapist, clinical psychologist? I'm not going to pigeonhole you. I just want to know what your deal is, everybody.
Intern.
Professionally. Intern.
But wait, in social work or in marriage and family therapy?
LPC.
Both.
Okay. No, I was asking Ryan, intern in what?
LPC.
LPC, sorry. Okay.
What does that mean?
Licensed professional counselor.
Thank you.
I'm an LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist.
Okay. Sarah?
LMFT.
Oh, sorry. Licensed marriage and family therapist.
Okay. Dr.
Yeah.
Palmer?
Yeah, I serve in several different states, but basically I serve at the LPC, licensed professional counselor, a mental health clinician, and I've got a doctorate in counseling psychology.
Okay. And Jake, you?
LMFT.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Well, I think a lot of us have spoken to this in the past. I know it's been on this podcast in the past. There's a tremendous amount of gatekeeping into who gets into the field at all, and so just getting into the program is a tremendously difficult hurdle if you have moderate, worldview. If you have decidedly conservative and you actually say those things in your application process, you're done. You won't step in the front door. And the chances of you making it through the program are incredibly slim. And let's skip the supervision process and actual clinical internships that we go through, where there is zero oversight over your supervisor. They are your God, clinical God for that time, and they control the keys to the kingdom. So it doesn't strike me as surprising at all that what comes out the other end of that all of a sudden looks very different than it used to in a society where we were more accepting of, okay, my neighbor is, a Democrat and my other neighbor is Republican, and there's a more homogenous culture. But that ship sailed a long time ago, and our field has only ramped up in its sense of importance and in the scale of our client load.
Mm-hmm.
So what comes from that is a massive field of left-leaning, at best, clinicians, and a whole lot of now social advocacy, when that would be unthinkable to have that in a course prior. I mean, when I finished my doctorate in 2013, the fuel was there. It was clearly moving in that direction, but there was no advocacy dynamic when I got through. We were still expected to hold that back. We were clinicians, kind of practitioner scientists model, but that was the end.
Sarah?
Josh, you do counseling work? Is that your title, like counselor? Is that what you go by?
I don't use a title. I will I am not waving a flag in front of any state licensure boards. I am not a degreed professional. I am not offering mental health care. After this disclaimer, I spent 20 years in the nonprofit sector fighting professional licensing boards, which frankly, are nothing but and never have been anything but extensions of medieval trade guilds from Old England. They are merely there to limit competition. They serve, in my view, none of them serve any public protection purpose, even when they sometimes, on rare occasions, weed out a bad practitioner. Their primary purpose and their primary output is limiting competition and keeping bad practitioners, whether they be plumbers, undertakers, or counselors, in business and shielded from the public. So I have zero philosophical or legal respect for them, but they have power.
Amen.
I give coaching sessions. I give consulting, hour-long video how I advertise to people is, I have a lot of personal experience with cluster B in the family. I'm very well read for a layman. I don't have a degree, but I know much more about the field than the average person off the street. And I've had a lot of personal experience, and now I've got 2 or 3 years of, the beginnings of some professional experience in dealing with people who have this in their lives. So that's what I offer to people.
Awesome. I like
You would call it counseling if it had a degree.
Okay. And we actually have a lot of therapists in the conservative population now kind of switching over and going into coaching and counseling because of what you described. We're tired of the board kind of overseeing us for no good reason. What is the point? The board really does not offer any kind of protection. Pretty much every complaint from a client that is reported to the board will always side with the therapist. So it's kind of a joke, and I agree with you on that. It's a money grab. They take our money every year.
It's a tax mill.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a tax mill.
100. Over here in California, the president of the California Association for Marriage and Family Therapists is not even a therapist. She's in business, and she's our president. So it's
I bet she has a really big smile, though, doesn't she?
she's Black.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, she Black? Well, oh,
That's all.
shoot.
I said it, and it's DEI, baby. That's what it is.
So I
That's-
Well,
want to
then
go back
she's
to
right about
something.
everything.
I want to go
Mhm.
back to something Dr. Palmer was saying about the level of skew in our field or our respective fields, because I feel like if this were like 60% left-leaning, 40% conservative, they would still have to deal with alternative viewpoints. But in terms of like what the professors are, the textbooks are, all the accrediting bodies, it's basically 100 to 0. So they never even have to deal with these ideas at all. And then when they encounter one in the real world, it's like they have a meltdown.
Yes, 100. And you're right. You go to school now. I mean, the biggest complaint we get is that these kids are like, I can't agree to this progressive ideology. This is wrong. What they're teaching me in class is absolutely wrong. Men cannot be female. Like, what are we teaching? Like, this is not okay. Children cannot be trans. How are we doing this? There's no empirical evidence to say there's a child that's trans. So, yes, you're absolutely right. They are teaching completely leftist ideology, zero conservatism whatsoever. And there is no fix. There is no fix. Again, it goes back to, like I said, we have to start from the top. I am hoping reform happens at the top. I am hoping that HHS is going to somehow say, you know what, if we want the minds of our population to change, then we need to gut out the APA. We need to rewrite that whole system. We need to stop depending on them to create our laws and our policies in this area, and really go back to what objective reality is, and really find a small group of people with sanity in their heads and be able to look and say, let's actually do what Josh was saying. Let's actually do some evidence and support it and provide money for some kind of research so we can find some biomarkers, so we can have some empirical evidence to find if there's actually a sickness involved in what's going on versus, I don't like you, you're retarded. Like, that can't happen. We have to stop doing that.
And therapy has to be a real profession. Every single person's bio is therapy is to be seen and heard. And in part, I'm like, duh. Like, are we? Or everybody is welcome. I don't know why we have to say that statement. And therapy is not just about being seen and heard. That's so narcissistic. So I think that's another piece of this is that counselors coming out legitimately have no idea what counseling is. I was just listening. I was at a party, and these people were 1 year, like, in an internship, and she was laughing. Do you guys have any idea what you're doing yet? And she's like, no, I don't have any idea. I'm like, there is not another profession in the world. If they were a 1 year postmasters and doing something, we'd be like, oh, it's so normal for them to have no idea. What is going on that you have no idea what you're doing? Oh, I'm just talking still. And that's terrifying. They have it's just nothing.
Well, in an entirely subjective world, how in the world would a professor or a instructor hold them to that? Because just like when I was a faculty member at university, I was beholden to this class of students that if I got a negative review, the dean would have me up, in the office because, well, we need to. Basically, I was, the customer is always right mentality.
Your customer service was subpar, wasn't it?
Correct. And so if I had negative student reviews, because I'm like, look, you haven't spelled a single word correctly, and I'm asking you to write a paper, and I like, there's no punctuation, there's no, I'm not looking for you to be, Shakespeare here, but I am asking you to attend to APA format. It's right there. There's tons of programs available for you. There's a world of resources. And I'm just gonna hammer on a few things every time, and I'll give you the same feedback every time. And this is objective stuff. I could ask any other person, in my field or plausibly in the area that uses APA. I could give them the same paper, and they would have very similar comments. And yet, I could be up against the wall for that. Now, imagine doing this subjectively with a student. And saying, well, I really want you to work on this, and your tone, and all the different things that are really, really important in the clinical interaction between two people. Incredibly important stuff. well, gosh, what if I felt judged or I felt like they were minimizing my, my uniqueness I mean, they're toast. The faculty is toast. So not only are they the gatekeepers, but they're also afraid of those coming through the gate.
I
And
don't
they have to
understand.
dismantle the white supremacy. That is a part of our code of ethics. I mean, there's many of us MFTs. I don't know if you've seen our to the code of ethics that they are promoting. I mean, there's 4 separate categories. There's gender identity, gender, sex, parentheses, medical condition. So, we're supposed to be able to negotiate all those pieces when we all have different ideas of what that even means.
This is unworkable, and I worry that well, I worry about a lot of things. I am not sanguine. I am not hopeful that at least those of you who are around my age, I'm 51, are going to. I expect this for the rest of my life. This is going to be the remaining decades of my life, fighting this fight, trying to make uphill progress, because this is what's happening here. Of course, as all of us know, this is not something that's just happening in therapy. What's happening in the therapy world is the therapy world's version of what's happening in our entire culture.
Mhm.
And there is a cliff drop, not a gradual change, but a cliff drop in culture that happens right after my generation, Gen X, and everybody who's younger.
Yep.
The transitions between generations that usually went like this are like this now. There's a gulf and a separation. The most basic things, even my mother, and my mother is the most none of you would dispute me. She is the most obvious borderline narcissistic combination you've ever seen. A literal infant could diagnose her. Okay, she's that obvious.
She must be fun.
She's just a
well,
girl, Josh.
Yeah, I know. Well, I wouldn't know. I haven't talked to the bitch in almost 10 years. So, even my mother's a lot of horrible things, but she had some good things and some skills too. And even my mother, when I was a small child, taught all 3 of her children basic manners, etiquette,
Right.
how to ride a bus, how to put money in there, how to use a payphone, how to speak to adults, what to do, who to call when you're in danger and you're by yourself. All of these very basic, like how to be a person in the world things. Even my personality disordered mother accomplished these things. I'm talking to people who are 18, 25, 35, 40 years old who have not been taught any of this. Not only have they not been taught it, they are hostile to the idea that it is worth knowing in the first place.
Yep.
So, when you were saying a minute ago, well, what if I feel judged? This is what we're up against. They think they're not supposed to be judged. What
Right.
do you fucking think the student-teacher relationship
You need
is?
to judge.
What do you think the master-apprentice relationship is? It is for me to judge you and your progress, to mold you into a full adult and a competent craftsman. How do we talk to people who believe that the actual paternal, maternal, or professional love and investment that we're putting towards them, they see that as an attack?
Yes.
But it's
Yeah.
I know we're talking about therapy, but again, going back to the schools, the fact that my kids are so aware of this, my daughter is like instead of being called whatever, they're calling each other racist. You're racist, and they're not saying anything racist. They're just calling each other and like
Yeah.
crying. But my son said something to me. He goes, "Yeah." So my teacher was telling me about his red Cybertruck, and I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." My teacher's like, "I love having my red Cybertruck. Everyone in the school hates it. No one wants to park near me." And so I'm thinking, all right, you're telling my kid this. Mike, you're a 13-year-old. They don't know what we're talking about, but they do. So already they're framing it as a kid. There are sides, right? There's a Cybertruck represents something. And so in these schools, I'm guessing it's 94% too, just based on what I've looked at, are teaching our young kids a lot. And you think Charlie Kirk was radical, you just made 100,000 more Charlie Kirks of a young generation. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but the little boys, they're upset, they're hurt, and they're abandoned.
Yeah. Josh, I
I
want to I want to piggyback if I can real quick on what you said about the judgment stuff because you're absolutely right about that. I'm tired of people saying don't judge. It's like, no, honey,
I'm
judge.
pro-judge.
Judge.
Yes.
Freaking judge. Judge her by her cover. Everything, all of it. A spade is a spade. If that's what you see, I'm judging
And
you.
judge yourself
Yes.
too.
Absolutely.
Judge yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the first thing I say was like, oh, you don't like this about that person? Well, what's that about you? What's because we know you see it in you. That's why you don't like it in them. But judge all day long. That's fine. We're teaching them. We're not allowed to have thoughts. We're not allowed to critically think. I'm not allowed to have an opinion about something. No, you can. You're supposed to. And then we're supposed to have dialogue. Because if you judge and you say this person is this, I think you're like this, that other person has to learn to defend themselves and go, well, that's interesting because actually I'm this. But we're not doing that. We're saying, you know what? Shut up all talk like we did with Charlie Kirk. Shut up all talk and just kill it. Because we cannot constantly have this dialogue, well, you're right and maybe I'm right. It just has to be what I want. It's unreal.
The young generation right now, I'm actually pretty delighted by them. I was not, but I just had a 19-year-old that I interact with heavily. He said to me the other day, I guess yesterday after Charlie Kirk's thing, he said, I thought my generation was going to have to rise up and purge in about 20 years, but at the rate they're pushing it, it's going to be about 5. There is an uptick with young males and young females rejecting the absolute nonsense that they're seeing, much like the child of a cluster B personality disorder person very often is like, I know exactly what the fuck that is, and I want nothing to do with it. Apropos of nobody in the room here, but I think there's a lot of hope to be had. And when I get a lot of these young men, particularly who are, usually raised in a home without a father, they'll come to me always saying this line, don't judge me, but blah, 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 blah. And I retrain them to say, judge me if you must, but blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
Because it puts it on the category, and they're surprised at how much that gives them power. This is my decision. Judge me if you must. If I try to teach that to a 35-year-old, good luck. If I try to teach that to a 15 to 25-year-old, very successful.
Nice. Oh, I have hope. That gives me hope, Jake. Good.
That's
So
super encouraging. I think that
go ahead.
example of the cluster of super encouraging. I think that example of having the alcoholic parents or having the cluster B parents is a great model. That's, as others have said, very, very hopeful to see shift happening that doesn't have to be forced. It's seen. We've seen the fruit of where this has gone, and for those teens now, I mean, they're the most conservative generation in generations. I mean, that's baffling to me. I did not think that was not in my cards. It wasn't in my, in my deck of possibilities. So happily wrong there. But, that's a tenuous thing, right? That I want it to be more than a generational swing of a pendulum. I want depth and meaning behind this. Charlie was not a swinging of a pendulum. He was a disciplined, meticulous man, and that took crafting. And so while I think he has lit tremendous amount of fire, it's up to the youth and each of us to kindle that, to actually maintain that. I mean, maybe a slight observation. We talked about we know what this is, but we're unwilling to say it. I mean, most of us here, Josh, accept it as being very, very measured in what we're saying, and kudos to Josh for just speaking freely in this. And you can see the restraint on most of the rest of us because we really want to. I want to reach out to as many as possible, and I don't want to offend. And that's so well pushed or beat into us. And so even in this venue, when I'm amongst friends, so I find that I have two friends I've known for 20 something years, right? I've watched um, one of them just go all over the map in terms of where they have been in life, crazy stuff that I have thought, I don't know if I can continue to follow you on my social media. Like I don't stand for anything that you're doing. And I'm really, really struggling just to keep seeing this every, little bit come across my feed. But, I care for this person. We disagree. And I just, I kind of, hope that life changes you and that maybe you'll find a different direction, something of meaning and depth and truth. What I'm saying is I hope they'll find God and that God will grab a hold of them and teach them something. And so I've watched this person over years. I think most of us have done this. We have tons of liberal friends. We have tons of people who disagree with us. And, I maintain those relationships. I'm cautious and I'm measured in those, and I give them grace, and I don't, thump the Bible at them. And I have another friend that I've known for 20 years. We were very, very similar in our expression of faith. But this person always liked cutting, like finding little things that they could get one on me. And it's easy enough. I'm a person, so there's always something that they could nitpick. It was interesting because even back then I thought, and to watch what's occurred over 20 years, during COVID, this person was all about Team COVID. And I thought, aren't you? I don't get it. That we were here 20 years ago. We were similar in our faith, similar in our stuff, but there was always that weird thing. And this other person, we were miles apart, and I've watched them shift entirely. I think the difference is this sense of entitlement on the one. I'm owed this stuff in life, and I've done good things, and the other was just straight. She was redeemed. Like God stepped to her. She saw the truth, and she left it. She left that entire thing behind her. And I'm just so floored. I was getting messages from her last night, and I had to scroll back through. Like, what happened? How did I miss this transition in your life where I would never have predicted this? So I guess I bring that up to say, we know that this is much, much bigger than just quote unquote mental health, right? I mean, everything is mental health.
Right.
We're looking at, is this evil? And can we turn from that evil? Yes, we can, but we have to recognize that this is evil.
Dr. Palma, Josh, you go ahead. All right, I'll go ahead. Dr. Palma, we've all worked with very skilled abusers, like a really, really skilled narcissistic abuser where you're like, man, God forgive you for it, but that was well done. Like, right, you can watch how they do it over the years. We are not dealing with skilled abusers here. They're kind of fetal alcohol syndrome retards on the left. They push too hard, too much, too fast, to the point where even normal people are barfing it up and rejecting. This thing that happened to Charlie Kirk, who was the moderate voice, good,
Yes.
authentic dude. I've got 4 people that if 3 days ago you would have asked me $1,000 to one, would these people reach out to you and like ask you for your advice, for your opinion, for your guidance, like what the fuck just happened? Sorry for the language. What the hell just happened? I would have said you're crazy. There's not a way. 4 of them have reached out, very like radically anti-Trump, but pretty left libertarian really. But the murder of Kirk, who was a legitimately, authentically good guy, and you could tell,
Yes.
has shaken
Yes.
them to their core. And it's like when somebody in an abusive relationship apologizes and defends for the abuser, but all of a sudden he beats her ass at the 4th of July parade one day, and everybody sees it. They're like, okay, shit. This is an abusive relationship. There's a click happening because our enemies are very evil and there's very smart ones, but my God in heaven, there's no sense. It's a stupidity that is baffling.
Yeah.
Go
And
on, Josh. Sorry.
No. You don't have anything to apologize for. I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like this may be a watershed moment where some scales fell from some eyes, and that's all to the good. Um, I feel compelled to say this, and I'm going to be completely transparent because this is a group of people who understand unconscious and sublimated motivations and all these things. There's maybe about 20% personal defensiveness in what I'm about to say, so I'm disclosing that to you right now. But I think the majority of this is not personal defensiveness because I do actually now have enough ego strength that I'm going to do what I want regardless.
Amen.
But and I'm saying this, I think I'm saying it not out of egotism, but because I actually mean it and I care, and I think I'm right on this, and I think it's necessary. I am not nearly as outrageous in what I say as people perceive me to be. Okay? I am performative. It's very obvious. I have a histrionic personality style. I think at one point in my life, I probably did qualify for a histrionic personality disorder diagnosis as a young person. I think that's probably true. I have some borderline traits too. They're obvious to people who know what they're looking for. But my style, my personality style, I don't think I'm disordered anymore, is histrionic. So I am performative, and I do like to shock a little bit, and I like to wake people up. All of that is true. But the content of what I'm saying and the way I say it is not nearly as controversial as it is characterized. And I submit to all of you and to everyone who's listening, I am saying things the way an outspoken man within the normal range of an outspoken man would not even have been noticed 40 years ago. I think my style, and I'm not the only person, I am saying I and me a lot, but there are a lot of other people out there who are more to my style. I think the general public and professionals have gotten so, forgive me, pussy whipped that you all think that I'm really just right on the edge of respectability, right? What I'm saying is not that outrageous. It only sounds that way because we have been trained and we have retrained ourselves to believe that speaking candidly and directly and calling a spade is an act of social aggression, and it's not. We've got to bring the balance back. What I wish for everybody is please be a little more confident. Pre-defend yourself a little bit less. Swear once in a while. Don't automatically apologize for everything you say. Stop worrying about offending people. They're going to be offended anyway. And as we just saw with Charlie Kirk, I'm in the loudmouth. People can get really mad at me because I say some pretty fucking spicy things. Charlie Kirk didn't. Charlie Kirk was the consummate gentleman. He never lost his cool the way I sometimes lose my cool. And they killed him. It's not your tone that's not making this okay. It's your timidity. And I'm saying that generally. I'm not speaking to anyone specifically. Thank you for listening.
But I appreciate it. And I lost my job for saying something really rationally. So we're saying, I agree with you. And I think a part of our moral injuries to ourselves is that we aren't able to be true to self or whatever that entails. But I said calmly, maybe we should consider how we're doing assessments on minors, and I was told I was the worst human possible. So my client asked me to lock the door today so we wouldn't be hurt. So me speaking the little that I have has already caused me, I get death threats all the time. I get calls all the time. So, I mean, we do have to talk about that. I don't want to run right into Syracuse University only because my kids have asked me to. But to believe in something is to be willing to die for it. So you're asking, that's what we're saying, is that either you believe what you say or you don't. And there's a risk to that. But even going on here, it's a risk. And people ask me, why would you do that? And truth to people doesn't matter anymore. And that's what's scary. Because if I say it's for truth, they're like, well, they don't know if that's worth the risk.
So I want to piggyback off of what Sarah was saying, and also to build on something you said earlier. And I think you also had it in a Facebook post about one of your kids was like, "Mom, that could have been you." And I just pulled out my Bible at the exact moment that Dr. Palmer was talking about not being a Bible thumper. So I apologize for that. And I know not all the audience is Christian, but I did want to kind of give that perspective. And I want to read just a couple select verses out of Matthew chapter 5 from the Beatitudes. So the first one is verse 4, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." I think we have a great comfort even in these trying times. And then also, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are when people insult and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. So I like to joke that Christianity has the worst marketing plan of any religion, because Jesus basically said, follow me and I promise you hardship and people are going to hate you. And I recognize that not everything that we've all said is specifically religious. There's a lot of other topics going on. But I'm wearing my shirt right now, if you can see it, the Make Therapy Sane Again from SOAD. I think all of us have, in the mental health space, have been called in some way, shape, or form to say controversial truth, to speak truth in a way that people are going to hate us. And we've gotten blowback and we've gotten some vicious insults. So I'm wondering, how do you handle that, both this calling to say true things and also to handle the hatred?
Like this. I don't give a flying fuck. That's how. I just don't care. And you know what? I have to say this with a disclaimer. Sorry, Josh, putting the disclaimer out there. I have that personality. I've had it since birth. It is just who I am. I cannot keep my mouth shut. I don't know how to stay quiet. I just don't have filters. I was always that kid that got in trouble for saying and speaking her mind. So that's just within me. So I understand that not everyone is like that. And I get that. And within my personal the Facebook group with conservatives, there are people who are truly afraid, like Sarah was saying. They're just afraid to speak up because they'll get fired, which they have. CPS has been called on my therapists in there. The board has been called I don't know how many times. They have been sued I don't know how many times. I mean, these attacks truly do happen. So I speak up louder for them. I don't expect them to speak up because they have a true and valid fear. I don't have kids. I don't have to worry about that. So I'm in a really particular position, a very special position where I can speak up and not have to really worry about an entire family that's behind me. So I do that. I carry that. I look at my mouth as a gift to use for others. And that's what I'm doing. I am using it to be a voice for everybody else. I cannot expect that everybody else can do that. But what I can do, and I think, Josh, this speaks to what you were saying, is I can at least instill some courage for them. I can say, hey, you can do it. Maybe do it this way. You have it within you. Maybe try this. And if you can't, come get me and I'll do it for you. That's fine. But I try to encourage them in some way. I don't just look at them and say, just stop. It's fine. You're weak anyway. Don't do it. That is the last thing I do. It's like, no, you have the courage. The bravery is in you. I can help you facilitate that, or I can do it for you. It's up to you. But there are just truly some people that are called to just be loud and obnoxious and be in everyone's face. And then there's some that aren't, that are really truly called to just do the work that they're supposed to do in the therapy room. And God bless them. I want them. I want to keep them because we need that. The influence happens within the therapy room. The change happens there. We need more of them in there. Josh, I can't hear you.
Josh, your audio.
Sorry. I'm saying yes. I love everything you just said. And I agree with it. And there are, what I ask of people is just to do a little bit more than you thought you could do yesterday. I don't ask people to be I hope I don't ask people to be different people from who they are. Unless they really need to be. Like, I mean, if you're borderline, you really need to try to not be. But I do know, and I'm one of those obnoxious people, and I was that kid who got in trouble for speaking his mind from 5 years old in kindergarten. It's my wiring. It's not just the abuse. The abuse just polished it. But yes, and the last thing you said, this is why real therapy really matters. This is why you matter. This is why all of you matter. I know this. I wouldn't be here this way. I wouldn't be able to do what I do, excuse me, if I had not had that transformative relationship with someone who was not only trained, but who had much more ego strength and much more wisdom than I did, and knew how to let me break bones and struggle through it and come to it on my own. Because I started out, this was the first time I ever had real therapy. I've seen many therapists over the years, but what I was doing was looking for sympathetic female therapists from whom to extract pity points and maternal love. That's what I was doing. And they were all very nice people, but they didn't know how to help me. This guy is a hard ass. He's a conservative. No, I don't know that because he told me. It's been 7 years and I've sussed out where he is because he's not leading and he's not didactic. And I started out as a woke liberal when I started with him, and here I am now. And it is because of him, many other things, but that therapeutic relationship transformed me. And I want to see all of you be able to do that for other people.
Amen. 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 And yourself, Josh. And yourself. You're doing counseling work. You're doing no different work than we are. You're probably doing it a lot better than most of us. So, I mean, you included in that. You're doing some serious great work in there in the therapy room. So good job.
But we all, what we all, if we're all together in any way, what we can't do, what we need to do our best work. First of all, we need family structure. This change, this, we shouldn't be here. We should not be here. This should not be a job that we can do. It probably always will be. There was always, before there were therapists, there were clergy, there were wise women in the village, there were elders. There's always going to be somebody who's going to fulfill. This is a priestly role in a way, and I don't mean that in a glorifying way.
I know exactly what you mean.
But there should be a lot fewer of us, and we cannot help people most effectively until our culture goes back to valuing family and fidelity and commitment and selflessness and boundaries and all of these traditional religious old school values. We need that foundation, and we don't have it right now.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's interesting because I thought about this the other day when I was in church. I was like, wait a minute. What the fuck is the difference between what the pastor's saying and what I'm doing in therapy room? There's what they can come here for free. Come sit on a pew and listen to the pastor for free and get the most incredible advice that you can possibly get that's rooted in God, that's sound, that's truth. Then come and pay me to sit in a therapy room to stroke your ego? No, just go and live and have friends that really you can look at and say, hey, listen, I need you to tell me the truth. And these friends tell you the truth. They judge you as they should as friends. They have their opinions about you, but you're absolutely right. We shouldn't really exist. I don't want job security. I want this profession to dwindle down. I don't want more of us coming into this profession. 100% with you on that.
There's my friend, or I guess our friend Josh Coburn tells me that I'm pretty uncontroversial. Jonathan. Sorry, it's hot in here. Jonathan,
I got your back,
tells
Jonathan.
me I'm pretty. Thank you. Tells me I'm pretty uncontroversial. It's because I'm able to. We here are able to speak very clearly without as much fear as some people. Like, there are prescription legal services you can get, so you don't have to have a lawyer on retainer, so that when you do get a complaint or something kooky, lawyers can help you take care of it. I've built revenue streams, income streams off the side of this, so I'm not wholly beholden to this. Because I noticed early on in grad school, one of the major ways they controlled you was threatening that they would take away your income if you got complaints against you as a license holder. And one of the things we notice with this Well, individual cluster B types and societal level cluster B types is all you have to do is like shout their name to them, like point out what they're doing, and they completely melt down like Rumpelstiltskin. That's like, Slocum's entire Twitter feed is that, like, literally just pointing out what they're doing, and they melt down like a damn European goblin.
Rumpelstiltskin is exactly the right fairy tale to use for this.
100%.
Perfectly right on.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But the reason I say it is because I think that one of the big reasons they've gained so much societal power is because a misunderstanding of the whole turn the other cheek principle, where we don't say the true thing because it will be perceived as rude and they'll act as though you're stabbing them to death in front of a nursery school if just by saying true things. And so and what that is metastasized to is we're to this point where if you say a true thing, they will turn around and use the mechanisms to destroy you. So it is incumbent on everybody who wants to not see the world go crazy like an abusive foster home. You have to create avenues and buffers around you of legal protection, of monetary protection, and friends who are disaffected.
Yeah.
Nice plug there, right, Josh? But we all have to do that. We cannot, I didn't even mean to do that. That was just the gift of the gab. We can't rely on the structures and systems as they currently are to protect or defend anything that's not crazy. And so we have to restart the world. We have to rebuild from the dead giant that we thought we were born into, that was always going to be here for us. It's dead. The world is dead that we grew up with. It died about the Patriot Act of 2001. We haven't realized it.
Yeah.
And so now here we are, we're having to burrow into that titan and restart the world. And it's a weird place to be, by God. But build the buffers, say the true thing, let them Rumpelstiltskin, because they're really not scary once they get started melting down.
Yeah. True.
Amen.
True.
Anybody else want to go?
I do want to say something real quick, if it's okay with everybody. So one thing I'm really trying to do, and I kind of want to get your opinion on and get your support and help on, is I really want to shift from calling it mental health. It is not. It's mental illness. And I really think that we need to start expressing that a little bit better. I think we need to say the mental illness profession. And the reason, or this is mentally ill, or we need to work on this person's mental illness. And the reason why I want to really try to push this is because mental health is just the tools that we give people. It's if I want you to be healthy, how am I going to holistically look at you and provide you the tools so that you can then become healthy with what you have? Mental illness is what we're seeing on the streets. Mental illness is the person that shot up Charlie. Mental illness is the person in the room that's ill and that's sick and who needs help. Mental health is what I'm providing that sick person. And I really think we need to distinguish the difference, because what the left did to destigmatize mental illness is really took this shift of calling it, okay, let's call it mental health. So we're not stigmatizing anybody with an illness. Fuck that, stigmatize. We have to
bring back stigma.
Exactly. We have to draw the line. We can't, you guys, we have maps because of that. That is disgusting. They are not minor attractive people. They're pedophiles. And we really need to distinguish that line. And what the left has done very well is said, you know what? No one's mentally ill. We're just going to call it mental health and take care of everyone as equals. And we've got to stop doing that. So please, if it's okay with you moving forward, try to distinguish the difference on what you're speaking on. Sometimes we are speaking on mental health, and I respect that, and I can tell by what you're writing. But when you're talking about mental illness, that's what we need to call it, please.
Amen. And maybe we could all get together another time soon, and if I could offer this as maybe a jumping off point for that future conversation. Everything you just said, Soad, but if I may, I'd like to push it one step further.
Please.
I don't think it's mental illness. I think it's moral illness.
Mm,
I think what we are actually talking about and what we are actually doing every day, these are not medical questions. These are moral
amen.
questions.
Amen.
I think personality disorders are not medical. They are moral.
You're correct.
They may be informed by, they may be stoked by, they may be created in part by abuse and mistreatment, along with whatever genetic load we come bearing out of the womb. But before we called them personality disorders, we called them character disorders,
Mhm.
morality. And before we called them character disorders in the 19th century, when people first began to write about what we today call cluster B in a modern way, they called it moral insanity.
Mm,
Mhm.
I agree with you, Josh. Thank you. I agree with you on that. 100%.
Well, thank you guys. We are
you.
running long, but thank you guys so much for
Thank you.
coming and
Thank you, Brian.
contributing. Yeah, I
Thank you,
really.
all of you.
Being with everyone.
Good to
I
talk
love
to
you
you.
all so much.
Yes.
So
All
much.
right. I
Thank
hope
you.
to see you all soon.
We'll see you
Okay.
guys soon.
Take good care, everybody.